I'm a behavior analyst by training. I have a PhD in education, my focus being on the biological basis of behavior. And I've always been really curious about the why behind students' behavior. And I worked myself in public schools for 13 years combined in two big urban Massachusetts school districts, helping teachers. I was a teacher myself initially, but I know how schools work. I know how our dysfunctions in our functional places and how things work, and I've really just my heart is in helping staff figure these things out, making sure that strategies that I recommend are actually easy to implement. What I had to learn, what I always wanted when I was in schools, when I was teaching, is how do I take the research that I'm reading and implement it in a school setting where it's busy and we don't have, a 40-minute conversation option like a counselor would. So I think administrators are hearing constantly about the disengagement. I think particularly since the pandemic, work disengagement has really gone up. And at the high school level, it looks like head down or not showing up or hiding in the bathroom for 15 minutes. In middle school, it's getting off task with peers, doing sort of inappropriate, disruptive kind of things. And then with elementary school, it gets more intense, where kids are can even get aggressive or bolting out of the classroom and throwing things, and all kinds of things are happening. So all of those, the thread through all of those is kids are not engaged as they used to be, and it's much harder to engage students. We definitely want to bring in classroom teachers and to what they can do. But for administrators, what we're going to do in the pre-conference is look at the why behind student behavior. The biggest blind spot I find for when we're trying lots of things and people are exhausted, but what we have not tried are a certain group of strategies. And that is because we underestimate how thoughts and perceptions of a student impact behavior. So for example, if a kid is disengaging from writing and they're not initiating writing because they perceive it as difficult, a graphic organizer is not going to help. So we have to have the right strategy for the right issue, and that's what I think most administrators don't have in their back pocket. And so what I want to show administrators is what we're probably not doing, and specifically what to do differently. So for example, one of the most common go-to strategies that administrators will say, and also teams will say, are breaks, right? So movement breaks, sensory kind of things is what our go-to for when a kid is dysregulated. The problem is those are very unstructured and can promote time to ruminate on thoughts. So for example, if you say to a high school kid, go for a walk, they can be worrying about their parents' divorce the whole time. And so they're coming back to class actually less regulated. Or a standing desk is great, but not if you're upset about something. Standing is not going to help that student. So what we're doing is we're trying things that actually aren't getting to the root cause. One example of an alternative would be instead of movement or sensory breaks, we'd call them regulation breaks, and then really look at what is underlying. When we can't sleep at night, we either read something or watch something, and that helps us go back to sleep because it takes us off the anxiety-provoking thought so that our skills like regulation can come back up, and then we can get back to sleep. So would you agree if you stay on the thought or thoughts, you'll stay awake? So we have to get off the thought to calm down. And that's the same idea that I teach teachers. So for example, distraction, a cognitive distraction is imminently or immensely more effective than a movement break. So instead of, going for a walk or getting a drink of water where you can be worrying about whatever just happened or what the kid said or whatever, if you say to the kid, your brain is like a remote control. You're stuck on this channel. You need to change the channel to calm down. I need you to see if you can answer these 3 trivia cards about Star Wars. All of a sudden, the kid stops thinking about what he's worried about. And as we all know, we know kids so well. When kids are really into something, and that's why teachers do read alouds, even at the high school level, or watch little videos. That's when kids look the most regulated, because when your thoughts are engaged, that's when kids are the most emotionally regulated. And so engagement really is a regulation strategy. But there's lots of quick strategies like that I want to, offer to principals, because not only the concepts of what we're missing, but I want to make sure they have tons of strategies that they can also recommend. So another skill, for example, that we'll go over is initiations. When a kid is not behaving, it's almost, when you do the analysis, it's almost always due to an underdeveloped skill. And so for example, incentives don't teach skills. So if you can't initiate because you're overwhelmed with thoughts, telling a kid you're not going to get a good grade if you don't initiate this is not helping him learn to initiate. So what I do with teams is I'll go through a list of the skills, which I'll go over are the most common. I'll show how easily teachers can teach initiation. We can also, administrators, I think I like to look at big systems, and so we can systemize how to teach initiation as well. Whereas if we kept them engaged in the first place, you kind of bypass the disruptive and the oppositional behavior and so forth. We'll also go over why a lot of kids have lower social skills right now, and some of the curriculums we're using could be supplemented in the ways I'll mention, because they might not be meeting the needs of the kids that we're serving right now, or we're not seeing the progress we would like from some of the curriculums that we're using. And there's just a few tweaks we can do to those that your counselors are using and your social workers are using, that will actually solve the problem a little better. Principals are in the role of really, moving their teams towards effectiveness. Principals really want to get out of the crisis reactive driven patterns that we're in, where we are just responding to behavior and people are exhausted, and we don't want a year like that next year. So when we even just change the way we're having conversations with teachers, just be aware of what the teacher's blind spots are. Well, we probably haven't thought to teach initiation, and you add that to a conversation, and we can sort of systemize that in the way we talk about kids in meetings. That's what we're going to focus on, because it will just help us stop being so reactive, be more preventative, and move really your whole school's thinking towards in a more productive way.